Hello and welcome. You're here, and that already means something. Maybe you came looking for calm. Maybe you just wanted a quiet voice in the background. Or maybe you didn't know exactly why you clicked this video. That's okay. You don't need a reason to be here. For the next little while, this space is yours. No pressure, no rush. Just a place to think gently. In a world that moves faster every day, clarity has become rare. Our minds are constantly filled with noise, opinions, worries, unfinished thoughts, and endless distractions. We think all the time, yet we rarely think clearly. And that lack of clarity quietly shapes our lives. It influences the decisions we make, the relationships we build, the goals we chase, and the peace we struggle to find. Tonight, we're going to explore something simple, yet deeply powerful. We're going to talk about how thinking clearly can help you live better. Not by becoming smarter. Not by learning more information. But by learning how to quiet the noise inside your own mind. This is not a lecture. This is a calm conversation. A slow walk through ideas that can change how you see yourself, your thoughts, and your life. As you listen, allow the words to settle. You don't need to agree with everything. You don't need to remember every sentence. Just listen gently. Because sometimes the clearest thoughts come when we finally allow ourselves to slow down. Part 1. Why most minds are always clouded. Most people believe they are thinking clearly. After all, thoughts are always running through their minds. Ideas, plans, worries, memories, judgments, one after another, without pause. But thinking a lot is not the same as thinking clearly. In fact, the modern mind is often overwhelmed, not enlightened. It is busy, not focused. Loud, not sharp. From the moment we wake up, our attention is pulled in dozens of directions. Notifications demand responses. News feeds deliver constant urgency. Other people's opinions slip quietly into our minds, shaping how we see the world without our permission. Over time, this mental noise becomes normal. We get used to it. We accept it as just how life is. And yet, beneath that noise, something important is happening. When the mind is always crowded, clarity disappears. We react instead of choosing. We assume instead of understanding. We feel busy, but internally confused. This is why so many people feel exhausted without knowing why. Why they struggle to make decisions, even small ones. Why they feel disconnected from their own goals, their own values, their own sense of direction. Their minds are not empty. They are overloaded. Another reason our thinking becomes clouded is emotional accumulation. Unprocessed feelings quietly stack up over time. Disappointments we never addressed. Fears we never named. Anger we pushed aside because life didn't give us time to feel it. These emotions don't disappear. They linger in the background, coloring every thought we have. They influence how we interpret situations. They shape how we respond to people. So when we think we are being logical, we are often reacting emotionally without realizing it. There is also the pressure to always be right, to always have an answer, to always appear confident and certain. This pressure pushes us to think quickly, not wisely. We form opinions before understanding. We cling to beliefs because letting go feels uncomfortable. We defend our thoughts instead of questioning them. Clear thinking requires humility. And humility feels rare in a world that rewards speed and certainty. But perhaps the greatest reason our minds stay clouded is this: we rarely stop. We move from task to task, thought to thought, problem to problem. Silence feels awkward. Stillness feels unproductive. Doing nothing feels like falling behind. So we keep going, even when we are tired, even when we are confused, even when our inner world is asking for space. And slowly, without noticing, we lose the ability to hear ourselves think. Clarity does not disappear suddenly. It fades gradually, buried under noise, urgency, and unexamined habits. The good news is this: clarity is not something you need to create. It is something you uncover. It returns when the noise begins to quiet, when attention slows down, when the mind finally has room to breathe. And that is where real change begins. Part 2. The cost of mental noise. Mental noise does not announce itself. It doesn't arrive as a clear problem that asks to be solved. Instead, it slowly becomes the background of your life. You wake up tired even after enough sleep. You feel busy all day, yet strangely unfulfilled. Your mind jumps from thought to thought, but nothing feels settled. This is the hidden cost of a noisy mind. When mental noise fills your inner world, your energy leaks away. Every unfinished thought pulls a little attention. Every worry quietly drains your focus. Every comparison steals a bit of peace. You may not notice it at first, but over time, this constant inner chatter becomes exhausting. Mental noise also weakens decision-making. When the mind is crowded, even simple choices feel heavy. You overthink. You doubt yourself. You replay conversations long after they end. Instead of clarity, you feel hesitation. Instead of confidence, you feel tension. Many people assume this means they are not smart enough, not disciplined enough, or not motivated enough. But the real issue is not intelligence. It is overload. A noisy mind cannot see clearly, just as muddy water cannot reflect the sky. Another cost of mental noise is emotional reactivity. When a mind is constantly stimulated, emotions rise quickly and settle slowly. Small problems feel overwhelming. Minor frustrations trigger strong reactions. You may find yourself snapping at people you care about, feeling irritated without knowing why, feeling anxious even when nothing is truly wrong. This is not because you are weak. It is because your nervous system is overstimulated. Mental noise also disconnects you from the present moment. Your body may be here, but your mind is elsewhere, replaying the past, imagining the future, worrying about things that haven't happened yet. Life continues around you, conversations, moments, quiet beauty, but your attention is divided. And divided attention means diluted experience. Over time, this disconnection affects how life feels. Days blur together. Moments lose their richness. Even achievements feel empty because your mind is already chasing the next concern. Perhaps the most painful cost of mental noise is that it distances you from yourself. Your inner voice becomes harder to hear. Your true preferences become unclear. Your values become mixed with expectations that aren't truly yours. You start living on autopilot, doing what seems necessary, what seems expected, what seems urgent. But clarity never lives in urgency. It lives in space. When the mind has space, insight appears naturally. You don't force understanding. You allow it. Without that space, you keep moving, but you don't feel grounded. You keep thinking, but you don't feel certain. You keep living, but something feels slightly off. The cost of mental noise is not always dramatic. It is subtle, quiet, accumulative. And that is what makes it so dangerous. But awareness changes everything. The moment you begin to notice the noise, you create a small distance from it. And in that distance, clarity has room to return. Part 3. Learning to pause and observe. Clarity does not come from thinking harder. It comes from learning how to pause. For many people, pausing feels uncomfortable. When the mind slows down, unresolved thoughts surface. Unanswered questions appear. Feelings we have ignored quietly step forward. So we keep moving. We distract ourselves. We fill every quiet moment with sound, screens, or tasks. But without pauses, the mind never resets. It only accumulates. Learning to pause does not mean escaping life. It means creating small moments of awareness inside it. A pause can be simple. It can be a few seconds of silence before responding. A slow breath before making a decision. a brief moment of noticing what you are thinking, without trying to change it. At first, this feels unfamiliar. You may notice how restless the mind really is, how quickly it jumps from one thought to another, how often it repeats the same worries in different forms. This is not failure. This is clarity beginning to emerge. Observation is the next step. When you observe your thoughts, something subtle happens. You begin to see that thoughts are events, not commands. They appear. They pass. They change. You are no longer fully inside the thought. You are watching it. This small shift creates space. Instead of immediately believing every thought, you start asking quietly, is this useful? Is this true? Is this necessary right now? Not every thought deserves your energy. Not every emotion requires immediate action. Observation brings choice back into your life. You begin to notice patterns. The same worries appearing in different situations. The same fears guiding different decisions. The same inner voices repeating old stories. And once patterns are visible, they lose some of their power. Pausing also reconnects you with the present moment. When you stop rushing mentally, your senses wake up. You notice the rhythm of your breathing, the weight of your body, the quiet details of your surroundings. This grounding effect calms the nervous system. When the body relaxes, the mind follows. Many people search for clarity by consuming more information, more advice, more strategies, more opinions. But clarity rarely comes from adding more. It comes from subtracting. Pausing subtracts noise. Observation subtracts confusion. Awareness subtracts unnecessary urgency. You don't need to pause for hours. You don't need perfect conditions. You only need intention. Even brief pauses, practiced consistently, begin to change how the mind operates. Reactivity softens. Impulses slow down. Insight appears more naturally. Over time, you start responding instead of reacting. Listening instead of assuming. Choosing instead of drifting. And this is where clarity becomes practical. Not abstract. Not philosophical. Real. Because a clear mind is not empty. It is attentive. It knows when to engage and when to step back. And from this attentiveness, a different way of living slowly begins to form. Part 4. Thinking versus reacting. Most of our daily behavior is not guided by clear thinking. It is driven by reaction. Something happens. A comment is made. A message arrives. A situation feels uncomfortable. And before we fully understand what is happening, we respond. This is reaction. Reaction is fast, automatic, emotionally charged. It is shaped by past experiences, habits, fears, and conditioning, not by conscious choice. When someone criticizes you, your body tightens. When plans change, frustration rises. When uncertainty appears, anxiety takes control. You may believe you are thinking in these moments, but in truth, the mind is simply following old patterns. Thinking, real thinking, is different. Thinking requires space. It requires distance between stimulus and response. It requires the ability to pause and ask, what is actually happening here? When you react, the situation controls you. When you think, you regain control. This difference may sound subtle, but it shapes the quality of your entire life. Reactive living creates regret. Words spoken too quickly. Decisions made too emotionally. Actions taken without reflection. Later, when the emotional intensity fades, clarity arrives, but too late. Thinking allows clarity to come first. It does not mean suppressing emotions. It means not letting emotions make decisions alone. A clear thinker notices emotion without being consumed by it. They recognize anger without becoming it. They feel fear without surrendering to it. This ability does not come from force. It comes from awareness. When you learn to observe your reactions, you begin to slow them down. Not immediately, Not perfectly, but gradually. You start noticing the moment just before you react. That tiny gap, that brief pause. And inside that pause, choice lives. You can choose to respond calmly instead of defensively, to listen instead of interrupting, to wait instead of rushing. This shift changes how relationships feel. Conversations become clearer. Conflicts soften. Misunderstandings decrease. It also changes how you treat yourself. When you stop reacting automatically to your own thoughts, self-judgment weakens. You no longer attack yourself for every mistake. You no longer panic over every uncertain outcome. Instead, you ask better questions. What can I learn from this? What matters most right now? What is within my control? Thinking creates perspective. Reaction creates tunnel vision. A reactive mind sees only the problem. A thinking mind sees context, options, and time. Over time, choosing thought over reaction reshapes your inner world. Life feels less chaotic. Decisions feel more grounded. You feel steadier even when circumstances are not. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means you become clearer. And clarity gives you something powerful, the ability to live deliberately instead of by impulse. That is the difference between being pushed by life and quietly steering it. Part 5. Clearing your inner world. A clear life begins with a clear inner world. Yet most people spend far more time organizing their external lives than understanding their internal ones. They clean their homes, plan their schedules, manage their responsibilities, but leave their thoughts untouched. Over time, the inner world becomes crowded. Old beliefs linger long after they stop being useful. Unspoken expectations quietly shape decisions. Inner criticism repeats itself so often that it begins to sound like truth. Clearing your inner world does not mean eliminating all thoughts. It means choosing which ones deserve to stay. The first step is recognition. Notice the thoughts that appear again and again. The stories you tell yourself about who you are, about what you are capable of, about what is realistic or possible. Many of these thoughts were formed years ago. Some were borrowed from others. Some were created in moments of fear or failure. They are familiar, but that does not make them accurate. When you observe these thoughts without judgment, they begin to loosen their grip. You see them as patterns, not identities. As habits, not truths. Clearing the inner world also requires emotional honesty. Unprocessed emotions take up mental space. They sit quietly in the background, influencing thoughts and reactions. They show up as irritability, tension, or exhaustion. Allowing yourself to feel does not make you weak. It makes you clear. When emotions are acknowledged, they move. When they are resisted, they stay. This does not require dramatic expression. It requires presence. The willingness to sit with a feeling without rushing to escape it. Another part of inner clearing is letting go of mental clutter. Not every thought needs to be solved. Not every worry needs attention. Not every problem is yours to carry. Learning to release unnecessary thinking is a skill. It develops through practice, not force. Each time you choose not to follow a useless thought, you create space. Each time you return attention to what truly matters, clarity strengthens. Simplifying the inner world also simplifies life. You become more selective with your energy, more intentional with your focus, more aligned with what feels right. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you care with clarity. As the inner world clears, something surprising happens. Your values become more visible. Your priorities feel more obvious. Decisions feel less complicated. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What feels true?" And often, the answer is quieter than you expect. A clear inner world does not guarantee certainty, but it creates calm. And calm allows wisdom to surface. You don't need to fix everything inside you. You only need to create enough space for clarity to breathe. And when the inner world becomes lighter, the outer world begins to feel more manageable. Part 6. Simple thinking, powerful living. A clear mind naturally moves toward simplicity. Not because life becomes smaller, but because what truly matters becomes easier to see. When thinking is simple, decisions lose their weight. You no longer feel pulled in 10 directions at once. You no longer carry every possibility in your head. Instead, you ask one quiet question: what is essential right now? Simple thinking does not mean shallow thinking. It means focused thinking. It means giving full attention to fewer things and letting the rest fall away. Most stress comes not from life itself, but from mental overload. Too many goals at once. Too many expectations. Too many imagined futures competing for attention. A simple thinker chooses clarity over complexity. They understand that doing less with intention creates more impact than doing everything with confusion. This shift changes how you work. You prioritize what truly moves you forward. You stop wasting energy on tasks that only keep you busy. You create space for depth instead of constant motion. It also changes how you relate to others. With a clearer mind, you listen more fully. You speak more honestly. You respond instead of reacting. Relationships feel lighter not because problems disappear, but because they are approached with presence instead of tension. Simple thinking also reshapes how you experience time. When the mind is cluttered, time feels scarce. You rush even when there is no reason to hurry. You feel behind even when nothing is chasing you. But with clarity, time expands. You move at a natural pace. You give attention where it is needed. You allow moments to complete themselves. Life begins to feel less like a race and more like a rhythm. Powerful living does not come from control. It comes from alignment. When your thoughts are clear, your actions follow naturally. There is less inner conflict, less second-guessing, less resistance. You trust yourself more, not because you have all the answers, but because you know how to listen inside. This kind of power is quiet. It does not demand attention. It does not need approval. It shows up as consistency, as calm confidence, as the ability to stay steady even when circumstances shift. Simple thinking helps you let go of unnecessary struggle. You stop fighting reality. You stop arguing with what already is. Instead, you work with life. This does not mean accepting everything passively. It means acting from clarity, not from noise. A powerful life is not built by force. It is built by clear intention, repeated gently over time. When thinking becomes simple, living becomes honest. And honesty is one of the strongest foundations a life can stand on. Part 7. Living better starts inside. A better life does not begin with changing the world around you. It begins with changing how you relate to what happens inside you. This is something many people misunderstand. They believe that once circumstances improve, clarity will follow. Once life slows down, peace will arrive. Once problems disappear, they will finally feel better. But clarity does not wait for perfect conditions. It grows from within. When your inner world is calm, the outer world feels more manageable. Not because it becomes easier, but because you become steadier. Living better starts with awareness. The awareness of your thoughts. The awareness of your emotions. The awareness of when you are acting from clarity and when you are acting from fear. This awareness gently shifts how you live. You stop chasing everything at once. You stop measuring your life by other people's standards. You stop needing constant reassurance that you are on the right path. Instead, you develop an internal sense of direction. You begin to trust your own rhythm, your own pace, your own understanding of what matters. This trust changes how you face challenges. Difficult moments still arise. Uncertainty still appears. Mistakes still happen. But they no longer define you. You meet them with curiosity instead of panic. with reflection instead of judgment, with patience instead of resistance. A clear inner world allows you to respond to life with maturity. Not emotional numbness, not detachment, but grounded presence. You feel deeply without being overwhelmed. You care without losing yourself. You act without constant inner conflict. Living better also means accepting simplicity as strength. You realize that happiness is rarely found in accumulation. It is found in alignment. Alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. When these are aligned, life feels honest. Even on difficult days, you no longer feel divided inside, pulled between what you want and what you think you should want, between who you are and who you are trying to be. Clarity closes that gap. It allows you to live from the inside out. You make decisions that feel right, even if they are not easy. You say no without guilt. You say yes without fear. This inner clarity does not make life perfect, but it makes it meaningful. And meaning creates resilience. A person who lives with clarity does not collapse under pressure. They bend. They adjust. They learn. They understand that life is not something to conquer, but something to participate in fully and consciously. Living better is not about having more. It is about seeing more clearly. And when you see clearly, you live deliberately. As we come to the end of this journey together, take a quiet moment to notice how you feel. Nothing dramatic needs to happen. No sudden insight is required. Sometimes, clarity arrives softly, like light at dawn. If there is one thing to remember, let it be this: a better life does not come from forcing change. It comes from seeing clearly. When you think clearly, you stop fighting yourself. You stop rushing your growth. You stop measuring your life against noise that was never meant to guide you. You begin to listen. You listen to your thoughts without believing all of them. You listen to your emotions without being controlled by them. You listen to life as it unfolds, moment by moment. And in that listening, something settles. Clarity does not remove challenges, but it changes how you meet them. With steadiness instead of panic. With curiosity instead of fear. With intention instead of impulse. Living better is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to yourself with understanding. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to move faster. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be present enough to notice what truly matters. And when you do, your choices begin to reflect your values. Your actions feel more aligned. Your life feels more honest. If this message resonated with you, if it helped you slow down even a little, then this journey has already done its work. There are many more reflections like this ahead. More quiet conversations. More moments to think clearly and live better. So, if you haven't yet, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next video in this series. And when you're ready, choose another video that speaks to where you are right now. Let it accompany you gently through your day or your night. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for choosing clarity. Until next time, take care of your mind and live well.